Some say Chinese is one of the most difficult languages in the world, and learning it is almost impossible.
So learning Chinese, the most difficult thing.
非常非常非常非常非常难
So I'm sort of tone deaf. I can't really hear them.
I think the cultural mindset is the biggest complication for
The
us.
grammar.
知吃思诗都还难
It's just complicated so much.
Only because you're not learning it in the right way. Why not try Takeaway Chinese, where you can take some Chinese away and experience progress day by day. Takeaway Chinese, we will promise you a difference.
你好，欢迎收听随行汉语 Welcome to Takeaway Chinese. I'm Fei Fei, and joining me today is Tony Reed. Hello, Tony.
Hey, Fei Fei, how's it going? And hello, everyone joining us on the show. Hopefully, I and you can learn something new on Takeaway Chinese today.
Yeah, Tony, so I know you drink a lot of tea.
I do, yes.
Do you have a favorite type of tea?
I can't say that I have a favorite. It really depends on my mood. If I'm in pain, then I'll drink a certain tea for pain, probably some calendula or some cat's claw. Or if I'm feeling like I need to get some rest, then I'll drink some lavender or lemon balm. So it really depends on my mood and how I'm feeling.
Interesting. For me, tea drinking is just beverage. I sometimes when I'm looking for something else than water, and tea is apparently a healthy and refreshing choice for beverage. I would drink my tea according to the seasons. Like during the winter, I would choose fermented black tea. But in the spring, I would choose green tea or white tea, which is more refreshing and suitable for that weather of that season.
Yeah, I think that's ingrained in the Chinese traditional medicine, right? I think different teas have different energies or different temperatures, and depending on the season.
Yeah.
So I think that, a lot of Chinese people drink tea in this way.
And so tea drinking, apparently in China, there is a lot we need to learn about tea drinking and also making tea and everything else associated with this kind of culture of tea. And first of all, we have, of course, a small dialogue. And let's dive into today's dialogue.
既然我们来到了杭州，那就去品一品正宗的西湖龙井茶吧。
听说味道好极了，不过这样的茶是怎么做出来的呢？
制茶工艺是很复杂的，从采茶到搓茶、炒茶、泡茶，每个步骤都大有学问。
难怪西湖龙井茶这么有名。对了，我还想尝一尝龙井虾仁，光是想想我都要流口水了。
Okay, sentence by sentence. First one, 既然我们来到了杭州，那就去品一品正宗的西湖龙井茶吧。
So this is, since we've traveled to Hangzhou, why not taste some authentic West Lake Longjing tea? Let's start from the beginning. 既然, I think this is since, right?
Yes.
And then 我们 is we. And then 来到, I think this is arrived or traveled. And then the 了 here is a past tense indicator. And then Hangzhou, this is the city, Hangzhou, yeah.
Which is famous for its tea.
Right. Na is then, and then jiu kind of symbolizes then. I think this is also then, right?
Yeah, na jiu is in that case, then, and it's kind of a conjunction
Okay, in
word.
this case. Okay. Ju is is this go?
Yeah.
Okay, and then pin yi pin, to try something by taste?
Yes, 品. I think it's in the shorter form of 品尝, which means to taste and appreciate. So 品一品, which is a colloquial and spoken way, more casual way of saying that word. 品一品, to have a taste, to savor.
Okay. And then 正宗的, so I think this is authentic, right?
正宗的.
正宗的, this is authentic. And then 西湖, I think this is Westlake. 西 means west, 湖 means lake. And then Longjing is the place. And then cha ba. So cha is tea.
Yeah.
And then ba is kind of like signaling, let's do something, right?
Yeah, to soften the tone. And 西湖, the West Lake, is like the signature place, the place you need to go when you travel to Hangzhou. Longjing tea, Longjing cha is also one of the most famous kind of green tea in China. I think the best of Longjing tea is the first batch that's picked in the spring.
I see. Yeah, I got a chance to visit Westlake, and then I went to a tea museum, and I got some Longjing tea. So, yeah, I can totally understand.
And then 听说味道好极了。不过这样的茶是怎么做出来的呢？
So this is, I heard its taste is perfect, but how is the tea made, right? So 听说, I think this is, I heard someone say, or heard it said, right? And then 味道, I think this is another way to say taste, maybe? I mean, because earlier we said 品一品 is to savor or taste something, and then 味道, is this also to taste?
Yeah, it also means taste. It's just 味道 is the noun, but 品一品 is the verb. It's like you can 品一品茶. When it comes to 味道, it's supposed to be 茶的味道, the taste of the tea.
Okay. So 听说, I've heard 味道, taste 好极了. So 好 normally means good, and then 极, so I guess together that's perfect.
Kind of, but I think 好极了 is a way of saying very good. And 极了 is like extremely. It can follow any adjective to saying, to amplifying the level of that adjective, like 好极了, extremely good, or 美极了, extremely beautiful.
And then 不过, I think this is but, right?
Yes.
这样的, this means such, or what exactly is 这样的?
这样 can be meaning such or this kind of.
This kind, okay. 这样的茶, so this kind of tea, cha's tea, 是怎么, I'm thinking this is how, right? And then 做, I think that's do.
Or make in this
出来,
case.
okay. So 做出来, I think together, isn't that make?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because by itself 做 is do, but 做出来, I think that's make.
做 means do, of course, in some cases. And then 出来 is like the completion of that action of 做. And 做出来, then we can understand in English as make. How is the tea made? And then we have 制茶工艺是很复杂的.
This is the process of tea making is very complicated. 制茶, I know cha is tea, and I think here 制 is make, so making tea.
Yeah, tea making.
So 制茶, so tea making. 工艺,
工艺, yes.
I think this is process, right?
Can be meaning process, but I think 工艺 here more carries the meaning of craftsmanship.
Craftsmanship is probably closer to the, so 工艺 means craftsmanship, or So 制茶工艺, so tea making process, 是 is 很复杂的. So 很 is very, and then 复杂, it's like 困难 and 复杂. Is it similar or?
It's different. 复杂 means complicated, complex. 困难 is difficult, hard.
So 复杂 is complex or complicated. Got it.
And then 从采茶到搓茶、炒茶、泡茶，每个步骤都大有学问。
Okay, so this is from picking the tea leaves to rubbing and stir frying them and then brewing up the tea. Each step takes a lot of learning. So I think we have the start here, 从. I think that's from, right?
Yeah.
And 采茶. So I think this is picking the tea.
Yes, 采 is pick, and 茶 of course is the tea.
Okay. 倒做茶. I'm not sure. I'm thinking that's rubbing.
到 means to because we have from, 从到 from
right.
to. 搓 is the action of rub. 搓茶.
Okay. So to rubbing the tea, 搓 means rub, cha is tea, and then 炒茶.
炒 is like
I'm assuming that's stir frying.
yes, stir fry. 炒 is stir fry. Basically, all the stir fry dishes you eat can be called 炒.
All right. And then 泡茶. And 泡茶is brewing the tea, right?
Yes.
And then 每个步骤.
Yes, 每个步骤. 每个 kind of means every and or each.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, and 步骤 is step, right?
Yes.
Okay, so every 每个步骤 step, 都, I think this is a lot, right?
All of the steps.
All.
Yeah, all.
All right, and then 大有. So is it 都大 or is it just
大有学问 is a compound word here.
So 有 is have. Is this 大 meaning big or is this a different 大?
It's a different one, sort of meaning greatness and to referring to the extension of learning that's required. 大有. 学 is like to learn. 问 is like to ask. And when you have the learn and ask 学问 put together, it basically means knowledge, learning. And then 大有学问 means a lot of knowledge is going behind of these steps that's referred to in the beginning.
Okay.
So 大有学问 can be put together as a compound. You can just use this phrase sort of together. And when you are trying to say something needs a lot of learning, has a lot of knowledge behind.
Oh, okay. So it's something that requires a lot to master.
Yes,
right?
yes. And 难怪西湖龙井茶这么有名.
So this is no wonder Westlake Longjing tea is so famous, right? 难怪. Is this no wonder?
Yes. 难怪.
Okay, 难怪. 西湖 is Westlake. Longjing is the location. Cha is tea. 这么 means this or?
Or meaning so, like so famous.
So?
有名 is famous, and so famous.
Yeah.
这么有名.
Interesting. Or this famous, because like if we say in English,
yes,
like
as well.
this famous.
This famous is another way of saying very, I think, right?
In this context, yeah.
And then we have the last sentence. 对了，我还想尝一尝龙井虾仁，光是想想，我都要流口水了。
So this is, by the way, I also want to taste Longjing prawns. Just the thought of having this dish makes my mouth water. All right, so I'm assuming duela.
对了
Duela, doesn't that mean like you agree if something is correct?
Yes,
Like
it can
the way-
mean that. But in this context, it's sort of by the way.
我还想, so was I think, isn't that like yet or also?
Yes.
And then 想 is want. And then 尝一尝, I think this is taste, right? This is the
It's
third
another
way to say
taste.
taste. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. And then Longjing is the location. And then Xiaran. Xiaran, I think that's on the prawns that he was talking about, right?
Yes.
And then Guangshi is just like merely, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Xiang, I think this is either think or smell. How do you say smell in Chinese?
闻 the fragrance is 香 is the first tone. 想 is the
Okay.
third tone. 光是想想 is kind of just the thought of it.
Okay. So this xiang is thinking, not scent.
Yeah.
Okay. So 光是想想, so merely thinking, 我I, and then that's 都. Is this all again?
都 already. Sort of meaning already.
Oh, 都.
Mhm.
都要. Is this want?
About to. Be about to. I'm already about to 都要.
Okay. 流口水了. So 口水, 口, I think that's mouth, and then 水 is water. So mouth water. What is the 流 here?
It's like dribbling to have the 口水 meaning saliva.
Okay.
And basically thinking about the delicious dish makes the saliva sort of dribbling down your mouth.
Or run.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, let's give it a try. 既然我们来到了杭州，那就去品一品正宗的西湖龙井茶吧。
听说味道好极了，不过这样的茶是怎么做出来的呢？
制茶工艺是很复杂的，从采茶到搓茶、炒茶、泡茶，每个步骤都大有学问。
难怪西湖龙井茶这么有名。对了，我还想尝一尝龙井虾仁，光是想想我都要流口水了。
You're listening to Takeaway Chinese with myself, Fei Fei and Tony Reid. We'd love to hear from you. Send us your thoughts via email to learnchinese@cri.com.cn. And for more fun Chinese learning, you can also follow us on Facebook by Learn Chinese to watch many fun videos and live streams. And coming up next, let's learn more about the Chinese tea culture, 中国的茶文化. Don't go away, so you will take some Chinese away. Welcome back to Takeaway Chinese. I'm Fei Fei, joined by Tony Reid. So Tony, we're talking about the tea culture today, which is, I think, something you would be very interested personally. 茶文化.
茶文化. Yeah, I think it's, I've always been attracted to tea. Not just for the medical properties, but just in other countries. China has a very, I guess you could say, extensive tea culture. So does Japan and Korea. So when I've traveled abroad, I've always made sure I was able to experience at least some of it.
But since you're referring to the tea in Japan and Korea, and I think in particular in Japan, their tea culture is like world famous. They have the tea powder, 抹茶. And that form of making tea is basically coming from China like 2,000 years ago. That's how ancient Chinese make their tea. Like they grind those tea leaves into powder, and then they have this sort of small brush to mix the water and the powder together. But gradually, of course, the Chinese tea culture slowly shifted away from that kind of process and then to the current one, which is more familiar to us, of brewing tea, 泡茶. Is that the kind of tea you personally would drink, like to brewing the leaves inside the hot water? Or do you prefer the tea bags, I think, which is more popular in America and other countries?
I think it depends on convenience and time. If I'm on the go, obviously a tea bag is much more convenient to put in my flask and add hot water and then go. And as time goes on, the tea will get stronger over the hours. But if I'm at home and I want to, say, brew a bigger pot of it, then I just brew the tea leaves at home and I boil it for a while and this type of thing. So it really just depends on convenience. I do both.
So when outside, you would use the tea bags, which is 茶包 in Chinese.
茶包.
Yes, 茶包.
Okay.
For Chinese people, especially older generations, sort of unimaginable to use 茶包 to make tea. If it's outside, it's not really convenient. They would use like really loose tea, not really high quality, but still tea leaves, like 茶叶. The drinks most taxi drivers here in Beijing would drink. You can see they have this big tumbler with the loose tea leaves and hot water inside. They still manage to brew tea themselves, even driving a taxi around the city all the time. Yeah, so I think it's quite interesting to see how tea cultures vary from different countries.
I know South Africa has African rooibos, or red bush they call it, and the Native Americans of the United States, they had a lot of herbs that they used for medical properties, and so a lot of us would drink that. So I guess if we had to say that, the American tea is largely rooted from the Native Americans, I guess the tea culture is not so big.
For every country and every culture, their version of tea is basically drawing from the materials they have on their land.
Right.
For example, the 西湖龙井茶 we just talked about is basically only grew in that area in Zhejiang in China. But if you look at other regions, other places in China, they definitely have their version of tea. For example, in Yunnan, we have the famous pu'er tea, which...
Oh, yes, pu'er.
Yeah, which is kind of a fermented tea.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites.
Oh, your favorite is pu'er.
One of my favorites, yes. There's another one called renshen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this herb, but it's a root that gives you a lot of energy.
But it tastes really earthy.
Yeah, for me, I'm one of those tea drinkers where the taste doesn't really matter so much. I drink more for functionality. So even though the taste is a little bit bitter or has a interesting taste, I can still stomach it.
人参茶.
Yeah, there's another one called 何首乌. I think this is they call it black-haired he, which is it's like a root.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to help with your, it's a detox herb. It cleanses the body, but it's supposed to return your hair to black. Hasn't worked for me, but I mean, it's still a pretty good tea to drink.
I don't think it's something you would worry about.
No, I got lots of gray hairs popping up. So, but yeah, there's a lot of others. Of course, Lu Cha, which is green tea. Yeah, there's so many, and some of them I don't know the Chinese equivalent.
Have you heard about oolong? Oolong cha.
Yeah, oolong. This is more of a milder tea. I think people drink it pretty much throughout the year because it's not hot and it's not cold. It's kind of in the middle.
Yeah, and also it's very been popular, made into different kinds of beverages, especially in the young people's favorite brands. Like oolong tea base is kind of the most common type of tea used in milk tea or other bubble tea versions. But my favorite is actually called 肉桂. I'm not sure if you've heard about it. 肉桂, it has two meanings. First of all, it means cinnamon, the spice. But there is also a kind of fermented black tea here in China called 肉桂, which kind of makes sense because, rou, the spice, cinnamon, resemble the idea of warmth. It's kind of like the perfect topping for a lot of desserts and drinks. But this kind of black tea from Fujian province is also kind of that warm and have that sweet yet a little bit bitter taste to it. And that's my favorite kind.
Okay.
It's called 肉桂.
Yeah, it's again earlier I mentioned the nature of different teas. Like I mentioned renshen, and this has a hot nature. And then you have liu cha, which is green tea, and this has a cold nature.
Yeah.
And this is something that in the West we don't know anything about this because it's this is ingrained in traditional Chinese medicine. So if you drink certain teas at the wrong time of the year, or if your body is just really cold and you're drinking cold tea, it could actually be bad for your health.
Yes.
So knowing the nature of the tea helps
really
to maintain health. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, a different philosophy.
Yes, it is. Like me, I'm not really able to drink renshen tea simply because my body won't be able to handle that much of heat. 热.
Interesting.
Yeah. And that brings us to the end of today's Takeaway Chinese. I'm Fei Fei with Tony Reid here in the studio. For more episodes of the show, you can visit our website at radio.cgtn.com and go to the column podcast. You can listen to the show and read the script there.
Find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, and much more. Just search for Takeaway Chinese, and don't forget to leave your comments, questions, and ratings.
All right, guys, we'll see you next time.
再见。